The room was suffused in the cold hush of early evening. A single chandelier cast long, wavering shadows across freshly polished floors, the scent of lilies hanging heavy in the air. The funeral home's interior was nearly empty, save for a few mourners in dark suits, whispered condolences trailing in their wake. At the front, behind the mahogany casket, a framed portrait of the deceased glowed softly under a spotlight, and standing just seconds from disaster, the widow looked composed, too composed, as she received a folded envelope from a stoic pallbearer. No one spoke, no one moved, but in that moment, everything she believed about her husband's death, her marriage, and her legacy was about to be exposed. Before we go deeper into this chilling case, I'd love to know, where are you watching from tonight? Drop your city or country in the comments. And as the details unfold, tell us, do you believe this was an act of greed, betrayal, or something darker? Also, if you're drawn to haunting mysteries like this one, please hit the like button and subscribe. It helps us keep these secrets exposed and bring you more stories that the world should never forget. The small town of Hawthorne Cove, nestled along a rugged stretch of New England coastline, prided itself on its quiet streets and unremarkable lives. But appearances were deceiving, and even the closest-knit towns harbor storms behind closed doors. The story begins in late autumn 2015 with the death of Jonathan Blackwood, businessman, community luminary, and husband to Emma Blackwood. Jonathan, 59, had built a modest but respected real estate development firm from modest origins. His wife Emma, 48, was seen by neighbors as elegant, gracious, patient, always by his side at charity events, town fundraisers, and gala evenings. They had no children. Their only surviving family was Jonathan's younger sister Caroline, who lived in Boston. Over time, rumors whispered in corners. Jonathan had begun to worry about his health, had hinted at wanting his will revisited, and once confided fears to friends that Emma might be too dependent on his fortune. No one took him seriously. To all outward appearances, their marriage was conventional, prosperous, and stable. In the weeks before his death, Jonathan grew weary. At board meetings, he seemed distracted. He stayed late in his law office reviewing contracts and wills late into the night. Emma maintained her public calm, but behind closed doors there were tremors. He argued to his attorney about carving out a clause that would allow Caroline to contest the will, a subtle check on Emma's control. Friends observed Jonathan dialing his sister at odd hours, asking about family inheritance and past disputes. Emma, they said, grew tense when the subject came up, her gaze hardening. But no one had proof. On the night of November 14, 2015, a storm whipped over the cove, wind lashing windows, rain slapping shuttered siding. Jonathan retired early, complaining of chest pains and fatigue. Emma offered to bring him tea, but he declined and insisted she rest. In the early hours, neighbors heard raised voices, then muffled thuds. Emma later claimed she found him in their bedroom, slumped over and unresponsive, and immediately called 911. Responders arrived to find Jonathan cold, pronounced dead at 2:46 a.m. The initial cause was listed as a sudden heart attack, no visible sign of trauma. The funeral was held days later at the town's historic chapel, floral arrangements crowding every pew. But buried beneath that veneer of grief was something darker. As the obituary ran and condolence cards flooded the Blackwood home, the reading of the will loomed. A private gathering of Emma, Caroline, and Jonathan's attorney, Victor Hale. The envelope Emma clutching by the casket contained, it turned out, a sealed addendum Jonathan had prepared the night before his death. It stipulated that half his estate would go to Caroline, and the other half to a charitable foundation controlling his business holdings, nearly cutting Emma entirely out. When the addendum was revealed, Emma's composure finally cracked. She insisted the document was a forgery, that he had no right to make such changes without her knowledge. Caroline, lost between mourning and suspicion, demanded a forensic review. The attorney reluctantly opened an investigation. In doing so, the funeral became the moment that would break the family. That evening, as Emma strode before cameras and handshakes, passed by the pallbearer who gave her that envelope, a tiny micro camera, hidden inside a pressed flower arrangement, captured Emma's lips curling inward in a stifled smile. No one knew that recording existed. No one suspected until much later. In the days that followed, small anomalies emerged. Emma had quietly arranged to move the original will to a safe deposit box last winter. She had made a final change to their joint property titles 3 weeks before his death. Her bank withdrawals in the week before his passing spiked significantly. Caroline's questions, once polite and cautious, grew desperate. Investigators reconstructed Jonathan's last day. He had driven to his law firm's branch in nearby Silver Harbor, arriving just before noon. He asked his assistant for an extension to file estate documents. He received a call at 1:07 p.m. Duration, 8 minutes, to Emma's cell. Security logs showed him returning home at 3:12 p.m. He had dinner with Emma. Neighbors later recalled them pacing in the living room, voices raised, rapid and tense. Emma was seen pouring 2 glasses of wine around 9:30 p.m. Then silence. No doctor was consulted, no distress call was recorded. When paramedics arrived that night, Emma stood by, calm, pointing out the body. The coroner accepted the death as natural, but Caroline wouldn't let it rest. One afternoon, Victor Hale uncovered an unsigned draft of an amendment dated November 9th, 5 days before Jonathan's death, on his office computer. Emma's signature was forged. The paper trail led to a printer in the Blackwood home. The forensic examiner concluded Emma had prepared it, but couldn't rule out prior knowledge. Caroline, furious and anxious, confronted Emma in private, demanding the truth. Emma denied unequivocally, but in that moment the silence broke. "I did what he asked me to," Emma insisted, "but I never harmed him." Caroline left crying. The two sisters never spoke again publicly. Emma filed suit to block Caroline's access. The small town watched as alliances shifted, gossip wound through families, and pressure mounted. Meanwhile, a retired private investigator, handling Caroline's request pro bono, sifted through years of bank statements, call records, and property files. He dug into Emma's background, a secret trust account opened 2 years earlier with funds withdrawn from a shell company. He located a hidden safe in the Blackwood home, behind a painting, which stored several documents, a draft confession, insurance policies naming Emma as sole beneficiary, and a video file on a USB drive. The file, time-stamped late on that stormy night, recorded the argument between Jonathan and Emma in the living room. On it, Emma's voice trembled. "You can't leave me like this," she said. "You'll destroy me." His voice was quiet but sharp. "You don't get to decide what I leave behind." The tape cut, nothing more. But in her eyes on the video, he seemed panicked. The private investigator turned over his findings to the county prosecutor. An autopsy was reopened. Toxicology reported a cocktail of sedatives and cardiac suppressants. The combination, rare and carefully dosed, could mimic a heart attack while suppressing struggle. The pathologist called it a calculated design. Emma was indicted on charges of second-degree murder, forgery, and conspiracy to conceal. The trial became the obsession of Hawthorne Cove. Reporters trailed her, shining cameras into darkness, estimating bail, reading her statements. Caroline wept from the gallery, having lost a brother but gained vindication. At trial, the micro-camera footage from the funeral, as obscure as it was, became a linchpin. The prosecution played it in open court. Viewers saw Emma accept the envelope, her lips twisting in that ghost of a smile, as if she knew that by then the inheritance war was won, regardless of outcome. The USB video file became Exhibit A. Finance records, bank transfers, forgery analysis, all wove the case like a dark tapestry of betrayal. Emma testified in her defense. She maintained she and Jonathan had disagreed over his will, that she had begged him to reconsider, but that she loved him and wouldn't plot his death. She claimed the tapes were edited. She collapsed in tears on the stand. But jurors, watching the gradual arc of evidence, grew unmoved. After days of deliberation, Emma was convicted on all counts except conspiracy and sentenced to life with eligibility after 25 years. The public reaction was mixed. Some mourned the fall of the once-admired widow. Others whispered of a tragic marriage twisted by power and control. Caroline, though vindicated, seemed hollow. She inherited little, spent days in quiet grief, walking past Jonathan's favorite rooms, pretending she had restored justice. Hawthorne Cove would never forget. Years later, Emma's legal team filed appeals, citing missing footage and alleged chain of custody issues. The micro camera's origin, placed by an anonymous party, was never fully traced. Who slipped it into the floral arrangement? Did someone else want Emma framed? Or had she walked into a trap? The ambiguity clings like a shadow. Sometimes the darkest secrets are the ones we keep from the people we love. And in this case, the truth was exposed, but the damage was already done. How much of betrayal is premeditated? How much is desperation? And when the one you trust most is swept into suspicion and guilt, can you ever see them again, or yourself, in the same light? Do you think justice was truly served, or are there still secrets left buried? Share your theories in the comments below, and if you want us to continue exposing the world's darkest family secrets and betrayals, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story we bring to light.